Hey, what's up guys, it's Apollo Uchiha here, back with another part of What If Naruto Was in a Political Marriage. Before continuing this part, I would like to thank you guys for reaching 865 subscribers. We're almost at 900, I hope we can cross that soon. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel if you like the content of this channel. Yeah, that's pretty much it for today, and without further ado, let's begin our story. Chapter 17. The Anger. Atsui knew that something was wrong with his sister. She was acting cold towards him. Well, that's not new information, but she was acting cold in a different way. Usually her demeanor would be a mixture of cold and confidence. Perfectly willing and capable of dishing out large helpings of kick-ass, all without breaking expression. Now, however, she was reclusively cold, seemingly lethargic, and not wanting to do her normal morning routine. Atsui had never been capable of cracking through his sister's icy personality, but when he saw her sitting at their table slowly eating cereal with a beat-down expression on her face, he had to comment on it. "So, how was your date last night?" he said with a great exuberance. Atsui was met with a death glare. She glared at him often, mostly due to his hot short antics, but this glare spoke of physical injury should he continue talking. He winced. "Not gone well, I presume?" She stopped glaring at him and continued slowly eating her cereal. After a few bites, she said, "It went great for me, but apparently he didn't know that it was a date, and wouldn't have agreed if he did." Atsui winced once more. "Friend zoned? I never heard that happen to a chick before. More like comrade zone." She continued to eat her cereal. "But it doesn't matter anyway." "Why not? Has he a girlfriend or something?" "More like a wife, if you ask me." Atsui's expression instantly morphed into one of surprise. "Married? I thought he was as old as you." "He is my age," Samui continuously giving clipped answer to him. 13? Was it an arranged marriage or something?" Arranged marriages between different villages were unheard of before the treaty. However, arranged marriages was sometimes the only thing that held particular clans together in times of strife. If Naruto was a part of a very influential clan, it would make sense to marry him off to another member, if only to ensure a progeny. "Yes, it was an arranged marriage," Samui said with a defeated tone. Atsui paused in order to think about what he was going to say next. "Well, that's a not so hot situation, if you ask me," he finally said. "It was a lame condolence, and he knew that." She gave out a light, humorless laugh. "And that's not the worst part. You know Yujito?" she said. He nodded at that. "He's the one who's married to her." This shocked Atsui greatly. "You mean that he was the one who was used to unite all the villages?" Truthfully willing, while all of Team B and he were listening to A's speech about the unity of the nations, they didn't listen too closely to the announcement because of the humorous dialogue that Amoy and Kaoru had been having at the time. How did that not come up in the conversation? Samui shook her head in confusion. "I don't know. I guess that he didn't want to talk about it." She returned to eating her cereal. Atsui was silent for a few more seconds. "Well, it is an arranged marriage. Can't you see him as a mistress?" He used finger quotes for the word mistress. She sighed. "Somehow, I don't think that the marriage that's supposed to unite all the elemental nations would benefit much more than it already is from one of the members seeking out another relationship. Don't you think?" Atsui didn't seem so sure. "You are a member of the extremely influential Team B, and you graduated at the top of your class. Why don't you just ask to be married to him too?" Samui turned her death glare back on. "I was interested in him, but I don't think that one good date would give me enough incentive to marry him." "You know what I mean? Arranged marriages almost never start out with both the parties involved feeling hot towards each other, and I doubt that having 4 other marriage partners would make it easier to feel hotter towards him. Why don't you just use the marriage as a vehicle for our relationship?" The reason that Atsui felt the need to argue for her continued relationship with him stemmed from the fact that Naruto was the first guy who seemed to crack through her cold personality, or at least put a dent in it. Truthfully, he felt worried that she would grow up socially stunted because of her demeanor. But when she came home after training with Naruto and told Atsui about him, she seemed slightly warm for once. So yeah, he was going to try and argue for his sister's continued happiness. Sumoi sighed once again. What? But what if it turns out that I don't like him, or at least not enough to spend the rest of my life with him? Sumoi finished her cereal and made it to the door. Where are you going? He asked out of concern. Team training, she said plainly. You forgot your Tonto. She realized her error and made to go and retrieve it from her room. After she got the sword, she once again made for the door. You didn't put away your bowl. Samui sighed in frustration and went to clear out her bowl. She was sure that she hadn't forgotten anything and walked to the direction of the door once again. You're in your pajamas. Samui looked down. She was in fact in her sleepwear. It wasn't going to be a short day for Samui, that's for sure. Link break. Fu! Fu! Fu, where the fuck are you? Naruto was wondering about the forestry that was just outside of Taki. When he went to Taki to spend time with Fu, Shibuki didn't know where she was. Apparently she got fed up with the living inside the safety of the waterfall village a while ago and moved to the surrounding forestry. Whenever she was needed for a mission, they just sent out a bird that she had trained to know her location. But other than that, she kept to herself, and they kept to themselves just how they liked it. Although that had worked for them so far, the situation made it further difficult for her loving husband to find her. I swear to fuck, Fu, you don't come out soon, I'm going to murder you, Naruto yelled out. He had been aimlessly wandering through forestry for about 3 hours at that point, and was getting extremely impatient. A brown, green, and red blur slammed Naruto into the nearest tree. It surprised him greatly and knocked his breath out of his chest. The blur turned out to be the ecstatic Fu, who was using Chaomi's chakra cloak to enhance her glomping abilities. She was nuzzling into his chest when Naruto remembered how to breathe properly. He grabbed her shoulders and pushed her off of him to arm's length. He took in great gulps of oxygen and collected himself. Hey Fu! She beamed up at him. Hey Naruto, I didn't know when you'd be coming to Waterfall, but I'm so excited that you finally came. She began to wiggle around in joy. Naruto didn't really know what to make of the situation. Fu had always seemed slightly happy-go-lucky, but never to this point. Hey, are you okay? He said gently. She began to smile at him again. Yep, I'm better than okay, because I got to spend a week with my best friend. Being alone wasn't a concept that was new to her, but knowing that she had a friend out there that was coming to visit her at an unknown time and had amped her personality up tenfold in waiting for said friend to arrive. She grabbed his arm and dragged him up with her. Come on, I got to show you my little silence of paradise. She began to walk in the direction of her paradise, still cloaked in Chaomi's chakra. Naruto looked at the cloak with wary eyes. What were you doing before you found me? He asked. Fu seemed to realize that she is still using Chaomi's chakra, quickly dispelling it. Sorry, she said sheepishly. I was practicing using her chakra when you showed up. Hers? Yeah, she's a girl, you know. This threw Naruto for a loop. But I thought that all the Bijus didn't have any reproductive organs, so they identified themselves as genderless beings. This surprised Fu, and she looked off into space for a moment, still walking towards her living area. Just as Naruto was about to comment, she looked back at him and said, Nope, she's a girl, she just told me. Naruto was at loss of words, but the Kyuubi said. Fu continued, My seal is different than yours. It's called the glass jar seal. It lets Chaomi experience everything that I feel. So eventually began to identify with being a female. Made sense. So is it just Chaomi that identifies with being female? Fu shrugged. I don't know. Sexual orientation is weird. I thought it was sexual affiliation. Maybe sexual identification? This walk was all very confusing for his 13-year-old mind. He sighed in defeat. I don't think that I'll ever understand people or how they think. Fu frowned. But we all have to try, or else we'll just miscommunicate and misunderstand each other. which could lead to conflict and war. My sensei always said that. They got really deep really fast. Naruto was silent, thinking about how miscommunication led to his and Samui's date, which turned into an utter fiasco. Yeah, I guess that we all just have to try and understand each other. But here, Fu cut him off. Naruto, although being annoyed at being cut off, still looked on at Fu's living setup in slight wonder. There was a crystal clear pond in the middle of a copse of tree with sunlight peeking through the treetops, making the water reflection glint in his eyes. Other than that, there was a fire pit that was surrounded by food stuff, mostly gotten from the forest but some other from the village, along with a few bookshelves. Yes, bookshelves in the middle of forest, which were overflowing with books. Welcome to my home. It truly was a welcoming home. Wow, you live here all by yourself, with no help from the village? Fu was smiling in appreciation of his accomplishments. Well, I have to get some stuff from the village about once a month, but other than that, I don't really go there anymore. Don't you get lonely? Fu's expression turned dismal. Kind of, but I have books. Whenever I read my books, it's just me and I don't need anyone else. That probably wasn't the right sort of thinking to ask her, he realized. Hey, at least you have me now, Naruto said, trying to cheer her up. She looked back up at him and beamed at him once again. That's right, we're going to have lots of fun here. Fu, fun? Fun doing what? He asked. Fu's eyes became influenced by an evil-looking glint. Why, training, of course. We have to get stronger to protect each other, remember? Naruto began to feel true fear at the look of evil in her eye. Link break. 2 hours later, Naruto didn't like the training. The training mostly consisted of Naruto trying to go through the several motions of surviving in the forest by himself. Light his own fires, catch his own food, lay his own traps, etc. Although it was complicated by the fact that whenever he made even the slightest error in setting up a trap or not making his fire pit deep enough, Fu would fly down from the canopy to engage him in hand-to-hand combat. Naruto, still not knowing the finer points in taijutsu, was merely only able to spam huge amounts of clones at her and try to run away in her Chome-induced state. The clones were trivial matters and Naruto never got away from her. Who knew that behind the smiling multicolored face of Fu there lived a sadist that Naruto feared greatly, a sadist that Naruto was married to. Chome might have increased her speed and strength with her chakra, but Fu's real strong point was the fact that she knew how to counteract his strategies. Namely, she didn't let him make any. She had learned her lesson with a destabilized Rasengan to the torso. That Naruto was extremely effective on the spot thinker, but he could only think when there was a spot to think on. At the present, a badly bruised up Naruto was out hunting rabbits. He had to be very quiet because rabbits are extremely sneaky. He heard rustling in the bushes to his right, calculating where the rabbit was based on the position of the sound that it made. Naruto let a kunai fly in its direction. The first kunai missed, but he was finally able to lodge a kunai deep in its chest, immediately killing it. Grabbing it by its ears, he prepared to make his way back to the camp. Fu descended from the trees like a fallen angel and proceeded to try and beat the tar out of Naruto. Her movements were easy to track, but he was never quite able to react in time. Throughout the 2 hours that Naruto had been going through the training, she had always engaging him in the same way and always fought in the same way. What did I do this time? Naruto complained. He ducked under a jab for his face and dodged a knee to his face, only to have to dodge the elbow to his face. He was starting to get pretty good at dodging things aimed at his face. You forgot to pick up the other kunais you threw. Enemy shinobi might have found those and tracked you back to your campsite. She parried a blow to her chest and kicked his legs out from under him. then proceeded to stomp on his chest. Call it tough love. Her footing poofed out from under her as the Naruto she stomped on turned into smoke and disappeared. She looked around her for the real one and averted her gaze upwards in time to find her vision blocked, the foot connecting with her face, backing up and covering her face. She was repeatedly hit in the arms and torso while her vision was clouded. Fu wised up, flew up to the nearest tree and stuck on. How did you make that shadow clone? I always had my eyes on you, and you never made a substitution, she said, clearing away the fog in her eyes. It was always my clone. Didn't you notice that he focused on parrying or dodging your elbows and not getting dispelled? Naruto called up to her. She groaned. Naruto, the meaning of this exercise is to make sure that you can survive out in the woods like proper shinobis behind. Then why do you beat the shit out of me whenever I get it wrong? Negative reinforcement. It gets branded into your head faster this way. With that, she disappeared into the treetops once again. Naruto groaned. He knew that she was doing this mostly for his own good, but he didn't think that she would be so ready and willing to put him through the amount of physical abuse that he was experiencing. Naruto went out and picked up all the kunais that he threw, and even with all the major nations in a pact to no longer kill each other, there would always be outlaws and missing links. This exercise was valuable, even if he had to be put through the grinder. After he picked up all the kunais, he made his way back to the camp, making sure to not leave any traces of him being there at all. With the rabbit securely in hand, he had all the vital things needed to survive for a day in the wilderness. So he resolved to wait out the rest of the day in silence, even if waiting wasn't his strong suit. Back at the campsite, he found a Fu without Biju Chakra sitting at fire pit, looking deep into these smoldering embers. Naruto took the development in stride. Don't look into the fire for too long. You'll burn your eyes out. It was mostly a wives' tale, but it did have some merit to it. She didn't comment on his statement, so he just sat beside her. It was starting to get dark. After some more moments of silence, she finally spoke. You pass for now. Let's get back to my campsite. Was she acting weird? She seemed impersonal all throughout the exercise. Naruto knew that he had to jump on this. He learned his lesson from the situation with Samui. Always question and obtain information that could be extrapolated incorrectly. While they were walking back, he asked, Did I do something wrong? She seemed confused by the question. Well, you set up the traps incorrectly, didn't make the fire pit deep enough. No, not that. Did I do anything to offend you? Naruto asked, searching for right words. She quickly put a smiling veneer and said, No, of course not. I just didn't really like that. You might not like me as much. That's crazy. I know that you're only doing this to train me. Don't worry, I'll always be your friend, believe it. Naruto said, smiling at her. That smile made little butterflies fly around her stomach. It made all the fears and self-questioning disappear. It made all the little larvae. Damn it, yes, Xiaomi. I felt what you felt. Don't take your anger of the world out on him. I'm just training him for his own good. Regardless, I'm restricting you of my chakra. What? No, I need that chakra to train him better. You don't get my chakra until you can get a better control of your emotions than you have now. But I don't get off on causing him pain, him specifically. Fu decided not to answer. He was her best friend. She said then to Jaume, He's my best friend. I only do what's good for him. Then do what's good for him. I am training. Both you matter if it makes him a better shinobi or not. You're using this to inflict bodily harm against another human because he grew up angry and alone. I felt the strength that you used in that storm. You would have broken his ribs if he wasn't a clone. The mention of her childhood made her immediately irritable. Shut up, you don't know anything. I've been with you since you were born. I felt everything you felt. If I don't know anything, then you're in the same boat. Then you know that I wouldn't do anything to hurt him. Sans training. Wrong. You wouldn't do anything that might hurt your relationship with him. And you take advantage of the fact that he is so forgiving to take out your frustration on him. Fu didn't say anything else and spent the rest of her trip to her paradise in silence. Naruto knew that the blank look and autonomous body movement signified her talking to Chome, so he decided not to interrupt her while she was in that state. Link break. Fu's paradise several hours later. Naruto was noticeably shivering. The night was cold, and he didn't pack a sleeping bag. At least most of his bruises had disappeared by then. Fu decided to unravel her sleeping bag and get inside. She thought that Naruto would do the same, not knowing that he didn't have one. No way. Naruto did not believe what he was seeing. The shape of her sleeping bag was like that of a bug larva, completely with a dot pattern and different segments puffing out at uniform places to mimic the segments of the infinite bug. What? Fu asked, sitting up. Her face was peeking out where the mouth would have gone. That is just so cute. It really was, but more like a puppy dog cute or a small child cute. What? Fu blushed, didn't show up on her one side of face very much due to her dark skin, but the other side, which was paler due to it being synthesized skin, had turned crimson at the unexpected compliment. No, I mean that you just look cute like a puppy or something, Naruto quickly retreated sheepishly. She turned her head to the side and muttered out, "Thanks." Eh? Don't worry about it. Do you have anything like any other sleeping bag? Naruto asked. She rose an eyebrow. Why would I have more than one sleeping bag? In case you were expecting company, I guess? Well, what kind of company would I ever expect? Oh, I don't know, maybe your husband? Naruto said in a playful, sarcastic tone. What? But didn't you bring one? I wasn't expecting to be sleeping in the wilderness. If he was going to sleep that night, he was going to need warmth. He couldn't sleep by the fire. It was dug into a hole, which directed all the light and heat upwards. Although it was good for heat when one wanted to sit by it, he would have to sleep unsafely close to the fire for any hope of warmth, and there was the risk of accidentally rolling inside when he was sleeping. Fu didn't know what to do at this point. She probably should have anticipated that he wouldn't have a sleeping bag and would need some sort of warming apparatus. But it was too late to go into the village to buy another one. And if he was going to sleep, he would need a safe source of heat. Since you don't have another sleeping bag, can I sleep in yours? Naruto asked. Well, this was unexpected. Fu had never thought that Naruto would be selfish enough to ask that he use her sleeping bag and expect Fu to fend for herself. It probably would have more sense for her to give up the sleeping bag voluntarily, which would have been the right thing to do, because admittedly she messed up by not anticipating that he wouldn't have a sleeping bag. She began to dismally get out of her sleeping bag. She had had it for years and she found it extremely comfortable, so she was reluctant to get out for even the night. What are you doing? Naruto asked. Giving you my sleeping bag, Fu said with a tone of acceptance. Why? This question drew her eerie. Because you just asked to sleep in it. What? Oh no, I meant I'd sleep with you, you know. You? Naruto said nervously. He had gotten used to sleeping with a partner from his time with Yuichito, and had forgotten that others might not be as comfortable with the idea as him. Seeing Fu's reaction, he realized that she probably wasn't comfortable sharing a sleeping area, and quickly said, If you don't want to, I got a few sets of spare clothes that I could probably get into. No, it's fine. We can sleep together. Fu hadn't slept in the same bed as anyone before, but knew that if it was only sleeping, she could probably handle it. She got back into her sleeping bag and unzipped it. Naruto got out of his tracks pants, leaving him only into his boxer and t-shirt. His jacket was still being used by Yuichito as part of hugging pillow, so he didn't have that with him. She shuffled to the side of the sleeping bag, allowing him to lay down on the other side. After that, she zipped it up almost all the way, allowing some room so that they could both breathe. The sleeping bag was rather large on the inside, allowing them to both lay side by side in a uniform fashion. However, the human body was never meant to sleep in that position. Since Naruto didn't know if Fu would be comfortable with snuggling, he turned around and faced away from her, pressing his back into her side. She did the same, and it was still slightly uncomfortable for both of them, but neither wanted to bring up the protest of snuggling. After they were both painfully awake for about half an hour, Fu finally whispered, "Hey, do you want to snuggle?" She barely breathed out the last word, but it was loud enough for Naruto to hear. She knew that they probably weren't going to get any shut-eye in that position that they were in, so she quickly summarized that snuggling would probably be the best thing to do in this situation. Yeah, sure. Do you want to be the big spoon or the little spoon?" he asked. He was always the little spoon when he slept with Yuichito due to his smaller stature, but while he was shorter than Fu by a few inches, the difference in stature was not as great and thus gave him more options. She didn't thought that far into the theoretical dialogue. Little spoon, I guess. Little spoon seemed like the easiest to pull off. Most of the time that he spent with Yuichito, she completely encircled him, but she did one spoon him normally, with one arm draped over him and her laying on her other arm. So he rolled over and wrapped his arm around her, allowing for more movement room in the sleeping bag due to the compressing of the things inside it. Pooh's face felt steamy. Although the position was comfortable for her, she still felt a little embarrassed by being so close to Naruto. He didn't seem to mind though, so that reassured her of the fact that they were only snuggling for the benefit of sleep. "Hey Naruto," Naruto grunted. That made Fu extremely aware of how close he was to her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "When you were doing the survival exercise, I kind of went overboard in trying to hurt you." Naruto didn't miss a beat. "It's fine, Fu. I heal fast." Fu wasn't convinced. "No, it's not. I wasn't trying to injure you. I was trying to hurt you." This comment threw him off for a loop. "So you like what, sadist or something?" Naruto commented in a flat voice. Although he felt like the training was a bit harsh, he didn't think that she was doing it because she got amusement from it. She buried her face in her hands. "No, it's just, I don't know why." He nuzzled his face into her neck whenever he was stressed out. Like with Samui date incident, Yuichito would do that to him in bed and he would feel slightly better. So he tried emulating that to Fu. "Fu, so long as you have me to call a friend, I'll always be here for you." He got the feeling that Fu was feeling self-consciousness and needed something calming to help her out. She felt embarrassed by the neck nuzzling but didn't really mind it. Tears began to sting her eyes. "Thanks." He continued to nuzzle into her neck. "Fu, you're one of my precious person. I will always fight to get stronger for you because I treasure my precious people. If you ever need anyone to talk to, I'll be there for you." He had to get regular physique check, but didn't know why he had to get so many at the times, but later likened it to the fact that he was a Jinchuriki who might conceivably use power stronger than most living things. With all the physique checks, he and the therapist didn't have much to talk about after a few appointments, so he told Naruto the basics of psychology, extreme basics, mind you, but enough so that Naruto knew what to say to someone who didn't have anyone in the entirety of her life. Well, maybe her sensei, but he didn't know what their relationship between them was. She snuggled into the embrace and they stayed like that for the rest of the night and into late morning. It was the best night's sleep that she had ever gotten in a while. As this is where I'm going to leave this part of, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, And sorry about the stuttering in this part. I don't know why, but my tongue slipped so much this day. Yeah, this is Apollo Chiha and I'm signing out. Peace.